Hello. Want to start off, as usual, by sending out love and compassion to anybody out there who is experiencing suffering. And I just want to also send out gratitude to anybody who's getting something out of this. It's nice to be back. It's been a little bit while since my last video, and I just wanted to say thank you, and also mention that when I do that sort of thing at the beginning about like sending love and compassion to anybody suffering, sometimes I'm including myself in that group, so it's not really just me trying to like seem like a cool guy. It helps me kind of remember my intention behind doing stuff like this. So I guess, like I said, it's been a little while since I did my last video. It feels kind of like things are rolling along in life, and I kind of feel like we've all at this point become veteran pandemicers. And whether we wanted to or not, it's we're starting to see I think a little more of a diversified experience. Maybe at some point it feels like early on in the experience there was a very a unified kind of feeling, and even though there were some cracks, they seemed kind of minor, and then it kind of seemed like we reached a certain point to where almost all of us, even those who might have differing opinions, reached a period where we were kind of over it. Whether it was we decided to react upon that physically or just sort of mentally, and we were given the chance to go outside and test the waters a little bit. And now it does seem kind of like we're experiencing a little bit of a backlash to that premature reaction. And so even though that kind of sucks, and the bad news happening right now as far as the resurgence and the spreading of the virus to other parts of the country are really sad, I think that there is, as always, a really important mindfulness lesson in there. And it has, to me, it connects to this concept of practice. And so there's a saying that I have heard my entire life that goes, practice makes perfect. And it's always been a little bit of a frustrating phrase to me, because I actually really hate practicing things, whether it was music or sports or anything. The idea of practicing was always really difficult for me. It felt very mundane And I think a large part of that had to do with the fact that I was always telling myself that this was a means to an end. And so it was very hard for me to like engage in the means part, because it just felt like, it just really devalued all of this big chunk of time before I reached this point to where I was like perfect, or at least like adequate or good enough or optimal, or however you want to put it, which is all kind of like hard to define anyway. So for me, the concept of practice really didn't sink into me until just a couple of years ago, when I started sort of meditating, and it kind of like it became the point of my practice was the practice, not really like the end result, which there is an end result. I mean, it has a lot to do with your quality of life, but it's really interesting to me, and why I think I'm so attracted to this mindfulness thing is because I mean, one could argue that even in meditation, practice does make perfect, but perfect is practice. There's no pot of gold, at the end of the rainbow. I mean, there is, but it's not the point. And as soon as it becomes the point, your practice is kind of like not working. And so that's part of the practice. The practice is becoming perfect at the practice. And so anyway, as a lot of this stuff, it's kind of difficult to explain in words, but I think if we're feeling, maybe really depressed or a little upset about like where we're at as a collective in the state of the virus and the pandemic, and maybe I'm just suggesting, this has been kind of good for me, when I start to slip into that idea that I want to start pointing a finger at something, or feeling bad, or getting upset, or thinking about how things could have been, I just sort of focus on the practice, and how this, once again, is an example of, if I had an expectation of how things were going to be, as I think at one point all of us might have had, and for whatever reason, those expectations did not turn out to be how they were, which, this idea that the pandemic would be over by now and we would be sort of back to the way things were, that's just another example of how we've taken our eye off of the practice of living our lives every day in the presence of our circumstances, which involves wearing masks, which involves social distancing, which we are sort of slowly adapting to, finding ways to work within that realm. And I feel like that's when life is perfect, because we're living it in the present. And if we're living it in a way we wanted to live in the past, or how we would like it to be in the future, quite literally, it could be, very unhealthy, i.e. getting close to people without masks, that kind of stuff. So, anyway, I'm gonna play a new song. I'm probably gonna mess it up, It's actually a song that I wrote almost a year ago, but I've just never really. It was kind of a three-quarters done, and I never really completely fleshed it out. And so I've been kind of working on it. It's called April Showers. We've been having a lot of rain here in the Kansas City area, so it seems kind of appropriate. Sometimes when you look at me, it feels like maybe you're afraid. And often I get terrified at things that people never do. And sometimes when you look at me, it feels like maybe we're the same. And I spend half my life sidestepping shadows from a fallen tree. Certain times at night, when things look black and white, casual conversation starts to flirt with formal fight. I think of all your powers, like early April showers, and all that flying mud just makes a perfect bed for flowers. Bend that tree to serve your will. Carve your name into that hill. Don't save her out of guilt. Love her for the pain she killed. And all those sticky hearts holding out for something bigger, grip so tightly to their favors, like a finger on a trigger. And the single bullet theory and that double blind solution doesn't mean one person's feelings are enough Okay. Thank you. I love you, and until we meet again.